Hi. So yeah, I moved here in 1995 with a sleeping bag and a pillow and a backpack and $300. And so I didn't take the bus when I first moved here because I didn't want to spend $1. I mean, why spend $1 when you can walk a mile there and back? It's not that big of a deal. And I walked a lot of places all over town, and I would end up walking a lot of places like, oh, it's on Mission Street. It can't be that far. It is that far. Mission Street's a long street. So I did some math preparing for this show, thinking about 20 years I'm going to be here. If I make it that far, June 1st will be my 20th anniversary in San Francisco. And so I was trying to make a rough estimate of how many times I had possibly ridden Muni since I'd been here. And, you know, there were the times where I had the day job, so I was riding it 2 or 4 times a day. And then there were the times where I was freelance, so I wasn't so much. But then I was going to poetry readings every night. But then there are the parts where I, like a couple years where I made a lot of money, where I took a lot of taxi cabs. But then there was the couple of years where I was depressed and crazy and never left the house at all. And then there was when I was in rehab on Treasure Island, and they made you leave the island. So that's at least 2 buses a day. Anyway, I figured a really conservative estimate would be I took 3 round-trip buses a week for 20 years. No, we'll say no transfers. Let's just pick that as a baseline. That is 6,240 bus rides. Minimum. And so I've seen a lot of changes in San Francisco happen, and I've seen a lot of changes in San Francisco happen on the bus. And where I live now is on 22nd and South Van Ness for another month. And the one bus that I take a lot, that I like a lot, is the 12. It starts at the 24th Street bus station. It goes up to Valencia and back down Cesar Chavez and up Folsom Street. It stops at Foods Co. It stops at Rainbow. It stops near Costco. It stops near Trader Joe's. That's a lot of grocery stores that end in O. But anyway, then it keeps going the whole way down through South of Market. It turns up 2nd Street. It goes through the financial district. It goes through Chinatown. It goes through North Beach, and it stops just this side of Pacific Heights. So most of the time, the bus is pretty empty. There's a lot of families. There's a lot of kids. You do see unattended children, actually, on the 12, bless its heart. And I have seen, however, sometimes it's crowded with people doing like all their grocery shopping at once, and the 12 is one of those where if they're short a driver, they're short a 12, and so it'll be 40 minutes instead of 20. So sometimes it's packed with grocery shoppers, but lately it has, and I'm talking in the last, say, 18 months, it has become a commuter line home from the financial district and South of Market to the Mission. And so it's crowded during rush hour for the first time that I've seen, and it's crowded with people, you know, people like, I hate to say it, but people like me. So my first job, as Eugenia said, was as a waitress, but pretty shortly I used my editorship at the newspaper in college to get a job at a website. I thought I was going to work at a magazine. I worked for a website. We didn't have the word .com job back then. No one added the word .com after website. Sometimes you'd say like Yahoo.com. Like there was no dot yet, okay? I'll put it that way. And as the bubble inflated, I got better and better freelance work, and then I sold out. It takes a long time to get paid between freelance jobs, and I was like, oh, I'm going to apply to Netscape, and I got the job. And I'll tell you right now, I got offered $62,000 a year, and that was 20% more than my father made at that time. So, and he had been in the same job for 20 years. So I was like, I'm going to sell out. I'm going to sell out. It like gave me, like I was like quaking with like, oh my God, it's a lot. I'm going to sell out. So anyway, I sold out, and there was no Netscape bus. Okay, there was no Netscape bus. You get to Netscape, you take Caltrain. It would be stupid to drive, even if I had a car, which I never have here, but it would be stupid to drive. It was, you know, a good 90-minute commute on the bus, probably 2 hours in a car with rush hour traffic. At any rate, there were a number of ways you could get to Caltrain. You could go to the downtown station, and so from my place at 17th and Valencia in the El Toro building, I could, or another factoid here, I paid $850 for a one-bedroom so I could have my home office there. And my friends thought I was insane for paying that much money. So, so you could take the 49 or the 14 down to 3rd Street and then take either the 45 or the 30, or you could walk, or if you caught that jitney bus, this blue rattle trap, you could pay an extra $1 and go straight there. Or you could take the 26, rest in peace, or the 49 or the 14 to 24th Street and then take the 48 down and stop directly at the Caltrain station on 22nd Street. Or you could do what I did, because I was always running late and there was no next bus, so the 22 you knew was coming every 10 minutes in the morning, at the very latest. Everything else was guesswork. So I would go to the 22 stop on Valencia and 16th, and I would get on the 22. You take it almost to the end of the line. You take it to Pennsylvania Street. You stop where the Pennsylvania runs up over the freeway, and at this point I would be kind of like half jogging up over the freeway, back down, and I'd be just in time to get a muffin and a cup of coffee at the coffee shop, and the guy was very, very stoned in the morning. And then exact timing, run down the 3 flights of stairs to the platform and get on the train to Mountain View, get off at Mountain View, and then get the Netscape shuttle. So that was what I did, and I started going at the same time every day, and I started seeing the same couple of people every day, and one of them was a guy who was pretty good looking, and you see someone and maybe you nod, maybe you don't, it's a city, and then you see him again and you start nodding and smiling, and then you start passing the time and talking about the weather, and then you do this before you even exchange names, and then you exchange names, and then the next thing you know, you're sitting next to this person every day on the bus. And so between waiting and riding, he got off at I don't know what his job was, but it wasn't internet, or we would have talked about that. He got off at work in the dog patch somewhere, and then I'd ride the rest of the way. So it's 10 or 20 minutes a day of spending time with a person. And so you're friends, and maybe you're going to exchange numbers sometime soon. There's a little bit of a chemistry there. And again, this was 1998. I got my first cell phone in 1999, and we wouldn't just text each other or bump phones or any of that nonsense. It would be actually pulling out, a piece of paper and then having to actually call the person. Oh my God, those were the days. Anyway, so there is one morning after, I don't know, a month or 6 weeks or whatever of spending time with this person, and then we're sitting on the bus in the seats facing the aisle directly behind the driver, like we did pretty much every day, because that's what was there, that's what was left, that's where we sat together. And he had, we were just kind of smiling. We'd had a nice conversation. Then he gave me this look, this kind of meaningful, intense look. And then he opens his jacket. He wore this black denim-y thing. And he opens his jacket and he shows me his arm. His right arm ends a little after where the elbow is. And the hand was this little curled up claw. And he closes his jacket again and he gives me this look, this bottomless, soulful eyes look. We have just exchanged meaningful, emotional, depthful contact. And I exchanged the look back with him as best as I could, and I never saw him again. I changed bus routes again. Now, let me clarify. This is not about his hand. This is about the reveal. This is about this non-consensual, meaningful experience that we had. This is about him expecting something from me that I couldn't define, and I wasn't sure whether I wanted to give him, and yet he was asking it of me, and I don't know what it was. It was something important, and I didn't have it in me. Now, when he tells the story, he might say, and the girl was so shallow, I showed her my hand, and I never saw her again. That's not the way that I feel about it. I've thought about the story a lot. I've told it hardly ever. If you're out there, it's not the hand, it's the reveal. It's this asking, it's this complicity, it's this, what's the word I'm looking for? It was manipulative, and I didn't have the emotional vocabulary to deal with it. And had he said, there's this thing I'm self-conscious about that I've actually lost friends over when people found out about it. And it's not a big deal to me. I hope it's not a big deal to you, but I need to tell you, I have this disability that I have some feelings about. And we could have talked about it. He could have shown me his hand, so to speak. And so, the thing about having a disability, which I also have this experience, is that people want to project things onto you like either shame or bravery. And it's kind of a big deal. And there's something I have going on with me right now that I want to reveal to you that's got some shame and some bravery attached to it. And the reason why I'm telling you about it instead of just opening my coat and showing you my poverty is that I have this big fear that this is going to be the last time I'm on stage in San Francisco telling a story about San Francisco, because after fighting with my landlord for a year, it's done. And so I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know which is going to be my regular bus stop anymore. I don't know which are going to be my regular bus routes, and I don't know if they're going to be in town. And God, after living in the Mission for 20 years, I want nothing more than to keep doing that. And so what I'm asking you, what I'm showing you, is I want to look you in the eye, and I want you to say, you might not believe me, but it's going to be okay, all right? You're going to be okay. Thanks.